Many people marvel at the allure of winemaking. This show was meant to give you a sneak peek behind the curtain with an exclusive view of what goes into the magic of making a bottle. Come with me as we explore local wineries, meet the vintners, and experience wines from all over the world. My name is Raquel Mullaney. Welcome to Uncorked. Hi, welcome to Uncorked. I'm Raquel Mullaney, your host, and today I'm so excited to have Rob Russell, one of the owners of Westport Rivers, as my guest. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Raquel. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here on our very first inaugural show. You're pretty special to my husband and I, who we own the 1620 Winery, and the reason I asked you to be my very first guest is you were one of the major individuals that helped launch Bob and I's career in the wine business. So with that, I would love you to tell me a little bit about your family history and how you got into the wine business.
All right, so my family got into this originally with my great-grandfather, upstate New York in Hammondsport. He had a winery called Germania Winery that he ran, and my grandfather inherited, and he ran until it was liquidated. And my parents, meanwhile, had heard these stories that went back decades about the wine business and kind of had this romantic vision of the industry. And this is actually a second career for my dad. He's a metallurgical engineer. He started a small business in the field of metallurgy in Providence in the 60s. That grew to be a big small business and decided to sell around 1980. Meanwhile, my mom had bought my dad the now infamous home winemaking kit. Around,
I think we all had one of those.
Around 1970, and he had started making wine as a hobby, and then started growing grapes in Dighton, which is where I grew up, and did that for a hobby for over a decade, and then they sold this company. He opted to go into this as a second career, and they did a lot of traveling around to different wine regions to try to see if they should uproot the family and move. And in the end, they decided to stay local, moved from Dighton to Westport, and bought the Smith
Why were they considering to uproot the family? Pardon me.
Just because, just trying to find a better region, more hospitable to growing grapes.
That's what I thought.
And it was mostly winter. We survived, partially survived the massacre of 1976, the Christmas massacre of 1976, where it went from, I think, 60 degrees to minus 25 over a 36-hour period.
So when we say massacre, we mean grape massacre.
Grape massacre, correct.
So let's not get our audience a little scared about you participating in a massacre.
Sure.
So grapes did not fare well in that year.
Right, and he started looking for something that might be a little bit more temperate.
Okay.
And we're tempered on the coast here by the Atlantic Ocean. We would have what would be called like a maritime influenced climate. And what that basically means is that we're moderated by the basically capacitor of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yep.
So it doesn't get as warm here in the summertime, it doesn't get as cold in the wintertime, and it also takes some of the fluctuations out of the temperature changes.
I found that very interesting when we were talking offset before we started recording. We were talking about the Marquette grape, and you said that Vermont's weather is more hospitable to that particular varietal than here?
Well, it's just different. It's believe it or not, in the summertime it's warmer
I did not
in
believe
Vermont.
that.
And it's also less humid, which helps keep the grapes intact and not rotting. But it does get colder in the wintertime. Marquette for us as a new variety that we planted is sort of a, what's the word?
Experiment?
Yeah, we've always grown vinifera grapevines. If you looked at what is a vinifera grapevine, that is the name of the species of grapes. It's like a family of grapes.
Okay.
And the different varietals within that species would be things like Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Riesling, Pinot Gris. Those are all like family members, those varieties. So Marquette is something that's outside of that species.
Okay. So are those varietals that you just mentioned, are those all grown here at Westport Rivers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Marquette is outside of that species.
Right.
For a lack of a better term, what species does it belong to?
Oh, it's a hybrid
Okay.
between two different species. neither one vinifera.
Okay.
And so it lends it to having different properties. Typically, historically, the finest wines have been made from vinifera vines.
Okay, and those are the 5 varietals that you just relayed off, the Chardonnay,
Those are some of the ones that we grow. We also grow some more esoteric varieties like Grüner Veltliner, which is it's an Austrian grape. It's a white grape.
Okay.
Arquetzatelli, which is a Russian grape. These are both
Are
things.
these tart, dry? I mean, I've
You
never heard of these grapes
can
before.
finish the wine any way you want to finish it, but we tend to, with our winemaking style, tend to finish things more on the dry side.
Tell me more about your winemaking style.
Because
Why do you like the dry side? Because that's a personal preference, right?
Yeah, I mean, my brother Bill made the wine here for 30-something years, and that's the style that we developed. Now Paul Goodchild is making the wine here, and we'll continue with that style.
Yeah.
Because of the climate that we're in, I talked about the maritime influence, we are a cooler climate, so we tend to focus on whites, not on reds. We do grow reds, but they tend to make white wines from them because the juice inside the berry is white on almost all
What
red.
types of reds do you
We
grow?
grow quite a bit of Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Marquette is red as well. There's another variety that we were experimenting called Petite Pearl, which is red, but mostly whites.
So when you say that you're experimenting with the Petite Pearl and the Marquette, that was about 3 years ago that you planted those
Yeah,
vines?
we had a couple of cold winters, 14, 15, 15, 16, where some of the older vines and some of the colder sites on the farm here didn't fare so well, so it gave us an opportunity to try something different.
Okay. So what are some of your most fondest memories of working here at Westport Rivers?
Well, my mom used to throw a heck of a party.
Tell me about that.
Back in the 90s, when we first opened up, I think 1990, 91, we used to do some large tented events where we celebrate Chardonnay. We had a spring picnic, we had an oyster fest, where we had quite a lot of people and really big gatherings. We had a sparkling wine gala where everybody there was always a theme, whether it be white or it be rustic or vintage.
Yeah. Do you still do parties like that? They sound like
we
fun.
do a party every Friday night now with our Sunset Music Series in
Really?
the summertime, so that's a little bit different.
When does that start, the Sunset Music Series?
Middle of June through middle of September, and it's every
Okay.
Friday night, and it's not really a concert, it's more like an event.
Okay.
But people come, there's a lot of kids that come, a lot of
So
families that
family
come.
friendly. So it's family friendly.
Yeah, and we've got a big lawn, we put like 800 people on it.
Wow.
And,
you can fit that many people?
Yep, easily.
Wow.
And we have a food truck and a cookie guy and a raw bar, and we have an outside wine bar, and also sell Buzzard's beer as well. And so we do that every Friday.
That sounds like a pretty big undertaking. I can't imagine where you would park 800 people. I mean,
Plenty of room on 400-something acres, so we
Wow.
find a place to stuff them all.
so that 400 acres sounds like it's pretty big. How big are you?
Well, we have 80 acres planted to grapevines. There's about 90,000. Currently, we're the largest vineyard in New England. There are some wineries that are bigger, but we grow more grapes than anyone else.
But the largest vineyard in New England, that's pretty impressive. And for how many years straight has this been running continuously?
Well, we bought this farm from the Smiths in 1982.
Okay.
We planted our first vines in 1986, and first vintage was 1989, and opened up in 1991.
Wow. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a really long time. So you have experienced tremendous success, so much success that actually I think the White House took notice.
Yeah, well, that was sort of a backdoor thing. A friend of my brother's from college wound up working in the Clinton administration, and Bill took the opportunity to get the wine in there. It was on the wine list for Clinton, Bush administrations, and it was also served at several governor's dinners as well.
That's impressive. That is pretty impressive to say that your wine was in the White House.
Yeah.
I don't know how many vineyards get to say that. It's a very select few.
Sure.
So congratulations for
Thanks.
that. So we've been in the wine business for many, many years, and you've been wildly successful at it. Why beer? Why move on to another beverage?
Bill was moonlighting as assistant brewer at Union Station Brewery in Providence back in the early 90s, and kind of hatched an idea in his head that something he'd like to get into on a more professional basis, in-house kind of thing. Also knowing that it takes a lot of beer to make good wine. I think that's how the expression goes. I don't know, I'll probably ruin that one.
That's okay.
And so that's his idea, his baby. It took a lot of us to get it up and going, and it kind of, as with the winery, I mean, it went from plan A to plan B to plan C to plan D to find what works. But it's up and running real well now, and
it's a pretty successful
business.
operation.
Yeah, it is.
I know that
Yep.
we carry the beer over at the 1620 Wine Bar. We also carry your wines, the Farmer's Fizz at the 1620 Wine Bar. So again, I can't thank you enough for all of the support that not only you and your brother have given us, but all of your staff at Westport Rivers has wrapped their arms around Bob and I and the 1620 Winery to hold our hands. I've never experienced being part of an industry that is so collaborative than the wine industry. And with that, I would love to say, let's toast to our wine industry and
All right.
Head over to the beer and see what's going on over at Buzzards Bay.
All right, and so this is our Cuvée RJR. This is our flagship sparkling wine. It's a Methode Champenoise process, which is the traditional French method. And this is a
Tell me more,
2007.
tell me what that means, French method, for our viewers that may
well,
not be winemakers.
Now that I've loaded the gun here, let me just...
Yeah. Ready?
So, all right, I'll just open it
Yeah.
quietly. And
Well, it is called Uncorked, so. So I hear that phrase a lot, Rob, the French method, the French method. My husband uses that as well. And I smile and pour for a living, so I don't always know the ins and outs of the exact processes when somebody says the French method.
And so traditional French method is where it's re-fermented in the bottle.
Okay.
And so what we do is we take wine that we've made and picked specifically. We know it's targeted to become this as a final product, looking for specific characteristics. And we make wine. And then what we do is we'll re-inoculate it with more yeast, more sugar, and we'll bottle it with that ability to re-ferment again. We'll put we don't put the cork in it, but rather we put like a beer cap or soda cap on the top,
Yep.
and it re-ferments in the bottle because the basic food for yeast is sugar.
Right.
So the yeast are eating the sugar in the bottle, and then one of the byproducts is carbon dioxide.
Right.
And so because it's got a cap on the top, that carbon dioxide can't expand or can't escape the bottle, can't expand because it's already full of wine. So what it does is it builds pressure in the bottle, and that pressure forces the gas, the CO2 gas, to go into solution.
Yep.
When you pop the cap off or the cork out, it releases that pressure, and the gas comes out of solution as a bubble. So the trick is, how does it go from being a soda cap
Yep.
and aging
Yep.
to a cork and finished? And also, how do you get the sediment out of the bottle? The yeast are just little microbes, and when they are done eating the sugar, they die. They fall to the bottom of the bottle and cause a sediment. So you have to clarify that. If you pumped it out, if you dump the bottle out, run it through a filter and put it back in, you've lost all your CO2.
Right.
So it's kind of
So are you
pointless
going
at
to
that
tell me
point.
how you
Well,
do that?
sure. No
Or are you
secret.
going to keep me on
It's
the
not
edge of
a
my
secret.
seat?
Collaborative, right?
Yes,
So what we do is after it's bottled, and as it goes through its secondary fermentation, which takes about 6 to 8 weeks, it's laying down in a process called tirage. It's laying in a rack or part of the barn, and it'll stay in tirage for anywhere from 3 to 15 years aging, depending upon the style that we're after. We make 5 different sparkling wines. When it comes out of tirage, what we do is the process is called riddling, and that what we're doing is we're getting the yeast cells off the bottom of the bottle down into the neck.
Yeah.
And so that we do that, and that takes about 40 days. So you wind up with all the yeast down in that little soda cap at the
Yep.
bottom of the bottle.
Right
This
here.
bottle's actually upside down.
Right.
And then what we'll do is we'll freeze the neck of the bottle. And what that does is allows us to turn the bottle back right side up without the yeast, the sediment all falling back down in the bottle.
Right.
We have a machine called a disgorging machine, which will actually pop that soda cap off. Because it's under pressure, it pops the ice cube out in the neck, and
That's
it
so
pushes
cool.
the yeast out of the bottle. And then what we do is we just fill the bottle back up again, and we put the cork in it, and we tie it on with a wire hood so it doesn't pop off again until you want it to.
So brilliant.
Not my idea.
No, French style, right?
Yep.
And just a little public service announcement for all my folks that are out there watching. As you saw Rob opening this, once you start releasing this cage, you need to keep going and get the cork out because it can inadvertently take an eye out. Speaking from experience. I like to talk for a living, and I was doing a presentation in a private wine tasting for a corporate client, and I took the cage off, and I'm still talking, and I haven't popped that cork yet, and I talk with my hands, and it just whizzed right by my eye, and I'm like, okay, never do that again, Raquel.
A friend of mine works in the ER in Providence, and he says it happens more than you would expect.
Really?
Yes.
So now I'm very cognizant of the fact when you release that cage, you've got to finish the whole process. Don't start topping or shaking the bottle. So, my friend, Rob, let's go check out the wine vines.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Enjoy.
So what kind of grapes are these, Rob?
So this is all Chardonnay, and what we're doing is we're hand picking them now. We use like a yellow lug and clipping shears, and we'll just go down the row and cut them and drop them.
Does it matter like where we're cutting? Like if I just
Yeah, they're attached at one point to the.
Well, how come you do that so quickly and it's taking me 2 tries? Right?
Yeah.
Can I do another one?
Yep.
All right. I think my husband Bob wants to get in on this action. Bob, you want to cut a few grapes?
Mm-hmm.
So.
The most important thing is you don't cut your finger.
Oh, okay. And the reason that I brought my husband Bob with me is because he's the actual winemaker for the 1620 Winery in Plymouth, Mass. And as Rob and I were talking about earlier, right, Rob, that you have been tremendously supportive of him and helping him go commercial.
Right. Help them get volume there.
He's like a little kid in a candy store right
There you
now.
go.
There is nothing better than cutting grapes on a beautiful sunny day at Westport Rivers Vineyards.
Whoops.
The rookie's costing you some money here,
Yeah,
kid.
I won't screw up anymore.
It's not as easy as it looks, Rob,
The machine makes it look easy, and it goes out and mechanically pick it.
because you really kind of, like I said, I took 2 snips and you seem to be surgically just kind of going along there at a pretty good clip, no pun intended.
Is there any downfalls to using the machines for picking?
Not really. It saves a tremendous amount of labor.
But the reason you have to come in and hand pick after the fact is because they can't get in close enough to certain vines?
Well, we haven't gone through here with mechanical machine
Okay.
yet. So these are just, we'll probably
Okay.
pick these, the parameters we're going to pick this around is frost.
Okay.
So I think that's coming
Tomorrow.
pretty soon. I think it's Thursday night.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be low 30s. So
You got to get in here.
we can pick it after the frost. What it does is it will start to lose the canopy.
Yeah.
And once we've lost about half of it, there's not enough photosynthetic activity to ripen the fruit. So at that point, there's no sense in leaving the fruit out here any longer.
Okay.
Although I've seen 33, 34, 35 degrees with no frost.
Really?
So a lot of it depends upon the dew point, depends upon the breeze. If there's
have
a
to be a-
breeze, there'll be no frost.
You
So,
have to be a meteorologist on top of being a winemaker, huh?
well, the advantage of being a meteorologist is you can be wrong 50% of the time
And still
to
have a
keep your
job. Yeah, that is fantastic. Thank you so much for showing us our Chardonnay grapes. And so after you pick them, then they go for destemming and crushing?
Yes, they'll go over to the winery, and we actually won't run them from the destemmer, but we'll just run them in a press,
Okay.
and then the juice will get pumped into a tank. It'll get cold settled, and then it'll get inoculated with yeast, and then it'll ferment. It takes about 2 weeks, and then you have wine.
How long before you put it in a bottle from cutting it off the vine today until it hits the market?
It depends upon the final product. We make a lot of different products out of Chardonnay.
Okay.
This will probably become our estate Chardonnay for
Okay.
2018.
Okay.
So that'll be for sale by the end of 2019 or 2020.
So
beginning of 2020.
on average about,
Year and a half.
yeah,
so.
18 months before it gets in a bottle and goes to the
Yeah.
market.
Now, if this was going to become Blanc de Blanc, one of the sparkling wines we make, it would be about 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, a lot longer, obviously. With our new French method that we learned earlier in the show.
Right.
Good job.
So why don't you You don't put it through a crushing system. You just go.
It's a whole cluster press. Yeah.
Oh. And is there a reason for that?
Don't need to, because we're not going to ferment it on the. We're not ferment. If it was a red, you'd want to take the rachis out because you don't want the bitterness in the must. Whereas we're just pressing it. We're not pressing enough out of the stems to make a difference. When I was talking about yeast cells, so we add, we take wine,
Yeah.
we add yeast and sugar, put it in a bottle, put that soda cap on.
Oh, there's the soda cap.
It
Okay.
re-ferments in the bottle. There's 4 basic byproducts. The
I gotta
alcohol.
put my eyes on. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. The alcohol level of the wine rises. The heat just dissipates out of the bottle. It does make a little bit of heat.
How does it dissipate out of a glass bottle?
Well, just because it just radiates out. It's not that much heat.
Okay.
It's a little bit.
Okay.
It's not because it's a 3,000 gallon tank.
Yeah.
It's a lot of heat.
Okay.
But with one bottle, it's not.
Not too bad.
The carbon dioxide can't expand because there's a cap on it, and it's full of wine already. So what it does is it builds pressure, as I said, in the bottle, forces the gas to go into solution. When you pop the cap off, it releases the pressure, and
Right.
that's how it's carbonated.
Right.
And then the yeast cells, when they die, they fall to the bottom of the bottle,
Yeah.
and that's where they sit.
Oh, so there's the yeast.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks gross.
And
I'm gonna drink that someday. Huh?
Yep.
And I'm gonna
And
go,
so-
yum.
The longer that is in the bottle, the more yeasty, bready,
Yep.
toasty sort of characteristics you get into the wine.
Okay.
So something that only sits here for 2 or 3 years, not a lot of that. But something that's sitting here for 10, 15 years, you get a lot.
Okay, so tell me the difference. Behind these blue curtains, all of these lovely bottles are just sitting stationary, but then over here, we have these octagon-looking things, and they don't look like they're so stationary. What happens with this big octagon?
So when we're done with the aging process,
Yeah.
we need to begin the process of getting the yeast out of the bottle.
Right.
That's done with the process called riddling. And we put this bottle down.
Okay, or you shake it up and the yeast goes everywhere.
On the rack.
Uh-oh. Told you you're gonna get in trouble for that.
And so we'll load these on their sides.
Okay.
We can, I think it's about 36 cases we can put per gyro pallet, and we'll come in here every day for about 40 days, and we'll rock it either to the right or to the left. Every several days we'll ratchet a couple degrees up. So what we're doing is we're sweeping the yeast off the side of the bottle down into the neck, and so you see it's on the way
Oh, there it is.
down there.
There's all the stuff we're gonna freeze.
And after the process is complete, this whole rack is like this, upright. You can see the racks in the
Oh, so
shadows
those are
over there.
completed,
Those
the
are
ones in the
completed.
back.
The bottles are inverted. The yeast is down into the neck of the bottle. And so we'll take, and on the morning we're going to the scourge. So that's the next step is we'll take each cage.
Is this your bottle?
That's a little one.
Oh, I know.
15 times the size of that.
So is this where you?
Let me switch sides here.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just put
I
that
don't know
on.
why. That's the way it's totally.
Okay.
But, all right, so on the day we're going to disgorge, we'll take one of those cages
Okay.
and we'll put it on the ground here. I'll take the bottles out one by one, keeping them upside down, insert them in this honeycomb-shaped disc. This is over a bath of propylene glycol, which is at minus 25 Celsius. It takes about 5 minutes and it freezes an ice cube in the neck of the bottle, which allows us to take the bottle out, turn it right side up, and the yeast stays on the top of that ice cube.
Then how do you get the ice cube out?
So then, this is the disgorging line. We'll put the bottle down in this cradle. This head comes down, pops the soda cap off. Because the bottle's under pressure, it blows the ice cube out, along with it all the yeast. And then, problem is now the bottle's not full out anymore. So the second part of this machine adds what's called a dosage. That dosage is an opportunity for Paul to sort of custom tailor the wine to the finished product. Add a little bit of sugar, add a little bit different, like a younger wine, an older wine, to the base wine here. So
Okay.
it's not only filling the bottle, but it's just adding some different characteristics into the wine.
So how do you not lose a whole lot of sparkling wine when that ice cube shoots out?
Because the whole bottle is cold. We
Okay.
do chill it down first, so it becomes less effervescent
Okay.
when it's really cold.
So it's not very explosive.
Right.
It pushes the ice cube out, but not a
You
lot of
don't
wine's
lose a lot
coming
of,
out.
not
Okay.
too much wine.
Okay.
And then after that, we take and put the bottle here. This pushes in the cork, and then this spins on the
Cage.
wire hood, the cage on top of it. Then the bottle goes to a washing machine.
Wow.
It's put down in a cage there, and then at a point later on, when the whole bottle of wine's warmed back up again and it's dry, we will bring it over there and run it through the labeling.
And this is your finished product.
Yep.
Wait, this is a finished empty product.
It is.
This must just be for show. Well, Rob, that was very interesting. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you to my guests and to you for joining us today. I'd love to know what your favorite wine is, so email me at raquel@1620winery.com. You never know, we may feature your favorite on our next episode. Until then, cheers.